is this going to fall over because there's not much weight
I
to...
don't know why it's like this, but I think it should work because we use it in this position, one or two for the last week, and oh, look at this. Never saw this before. Look.
You can always expect a slip between the cup and the lip, right?
What's this? Give me my glasses. I don't know what's going on here. I never saw that before. I'm a little upset about this.
Yeah, this is what you see. This is the problem.
We're having temporary technical difficulties. We'll be with you momentarily.
There you go.
Okay. Haribol. Yeah. Not too many options.
Just I want to make sure we're not going to be infected with DMS. You know what DMS is? Drooping microphone syndrome. That's why I said if it goes this way a little bit, then
So
there's
like,
a little more
so
weight
if
to.
if I bring another microphone over here, it will be contagious. It will start drooping too.
I think it's based on habit and lifestyle. So the individual disease.
Depends on the person. Everything was good, and then one week there was some program while we weren't here, and then they left it like this.
I see. Hare Krishna. Is everyone familiar with Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad Gita, yes, no? Okay. The Bhagavad Gita is, especially in the time we're living in, the whole gamut of spiritual understanding, which to a new practitioner might seem very difficult. It actually makes the whole thing very easy to understand. And there are two basic kinds of spiritual knowledge, or how it would be presented. Spiritual knowledge presented directly by Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, personally presenting, and or, because ultimately it's non-different, those who are in confidence or in connaissance with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That means that they have no separate or ulterior motive, which usually, an ulterior motive, I've never heard of an ulterior motive that's good. It's always something unfavorable, unwanted, adverse. So when we say a pure devotee, that means one who is recognized and authorized, just like, say you're a famous person, you'll hire a publicist to make sure that your image and your activities, the ultimate reality of yourself, is presented and defended properly, so that those who would like to malign or distort for some reason or another your actual identity, it's protected. So just like a famous person would desire like that, Krishna, he is unlimited kirti. Kirti means fame. One definition or understanding of Krishna is Sad Aishvarya Purna. Sad means 6. Sad Goswami Austin. Aishvarya means opulences. And Purna means complete/unlimited. So those 6 main opulences, which are not impersonal, they have to be possessed by a person. And we all have these opulences in relative proportions. But in the material world, such things are only possessed as long as you are living in the particular bodily situation that you're in. Or in plain language, at the time of death, you can't take it with you. Everything changes, and you have, at that time, no say where you go next or how much of these opulences you will possess and what your situation will be. However, those who have understood as you were mentioning, the responsibility of this human form of life to answer the primary questions of what a human being is meant to ask and is responsible to have answered, unlike the animals who don't have this capacity. Who am I? Why am I here? What is the best use of my time while I'm here? That means one's aware that you will have to face death sooner or later. And even in this Kali Yuga especially, there's no guarantee when that will occur. Prabhupada speaking here in this room to 1966 East Village hipsters, bohemians, and hippies. Hippie was a word not really used at that time. It was more after the media exploited the San Francisco scene, and then they used the word hippie. Prabhupada would have to speak that you were a young man, do you know when you will die? There's no guarantee. Especially in New York City and in this neighborhood, in the Bowery in the mid to late 1960s. Very dangerous place. So we say old means someone, they're going to die of natural causes, die of old age. But if you don't know when you're going to die, then actually we're all old men and old women. So an intelligent person, intelligence is defined as one who is conscious of the, what words should you choose? Precarious position in material life, and understands the process to get out of that precarious condition, and okay, if you say that this building is burning down and we have to get out of here, we have an easy route because we're on the ground floor. Anyway, I'm just thinking, if you're in a high-rise building and you know the position to achieve, where to go to achieve safety, someone who knows that is truly intelligent. And even beyond that, one who can actually lead others to that same sublime position of perfection. He is described as Parama Vidvan, the topmost learned personality. Where do I go at the time of death? So Krishna, he's speaking the Bhagavad Gita, and the foundational understanding for all spiritual life, just like there's no question of taking a course in Einsteinian, is that a word? I'm not a mathematician, but what you call physics, math based on the highest type of mathematical equations in science. There's no question of doing that if you don't understand, or even worse, you don't accept that 1 plus 1 equals 2. Right? You say 1 plus 1 equals 3, everything you will do henceforward after that is going to be wrong. So the basic 1 plus 1 equals 2 in spiritual understanding is, I'm not this body, I'm spirit soul. And more advanced than that is that I am a part and parcel, separated emanation of the Supreme Spirit Soul, that is God. But God is not just a vague concept. There's one religion that even the word God in their scripture, they can't even, it's an offense they consider to write it fully, even in the English language. You have to put G-D. Very impersonal. Say you have a name, and we can't say your name. We just use the first initial and the last letter or something. And nobody knows. It's ridiculous. So Sadaishvarya Purna, all wealth, all strength, all knowledge, all strength, knowledge, fame, wealth, renunciation, and beauty. Everyone is mad after beauty in this material world. And we see beauty is just flickering and temporary. The beauty of youth is compared to like the cherry blossoms in the springtime. Places to go in New York City to see the cherry blossoms, Cherry Hill in Central Park. But before that, a week ago, there was some blooming on the bridle path on the west side of the reservoir between 86th and 96th Street. Ooh. Things you must do before you leave this body. See the cherry blossoms in Japan. The Kyoto, the temple there. We saw that one. I did that. I was there some time. So then youth fades away, and the cherry blossoms fall off. So we have to look for new cherry blossom trees. So we have the new actor and actresses and models, 18 to 27 years old, and we promote them and we idolize them. And then when they get old, older than that, they could try to keep it together with cosmetic surgery or, whatever. But at a certain point, it's just ridiculous. But no worries. There's a whole new crop ready to enter into the cookie cutter machine. New names, new faces. In perfection, one's just like Krishna. He's the oldest of the old, but he's eternally youthful, never looking more than a beautiful teenager. There's no old age in the spiritual world. I think one of the romantic poets and writers of the pre-Gilded Age, what it said, Kelly or Sheets, one of these people, youth is wasted on the young, because only the wise know how to use it properly. Shukadeva Goswami, 16 years old, and by physiognomic, what's the word? Physiognomy? Yeah, anyway. He was the most beautiful person. He is completely detached from all material desires and in an assembly of the greatest spiritual elite of the entire universe. Many, many older personalities. He was unanimously elected as the president of that assembly to speak to Srimad Bhagavatam. That's one example. So Krishna speaking the Bhagavad Gita is a very great treasure. And there's many places also through the revealed spiritual scriptures where Krishna himself and in his different incarnations is speaking. But as Krishna's direct appearance, once in a day of Lord Brahma, or once in a particular cycle of manus. From our calculation, that's 8,640,000,000 years. Just how influential such a incarnation of God is. If by our calculation so many years passed, they set the foundational stage for all of human history, for all those millions and billions of years. So only 5,000 and some hundred or so years ago, Krishna appeared on this planet, stayed for 125 years, spoke the Bhagavad Gita, and revealed in other authorized literatures his teachings. So this 7th chapter is the beginning of the middle 6 chapters. There's 18 chapters in the Bhagavad Gita. And if you have a very important personality who needs to be protected, you'll have Secret Service. And there'll be the preliminary ones, then the actual person, and then there'll be like a final group to protect. So the idea is that that which is most sacred and important to be protected will have a beginning and a latter period to sandwich them in. So the middle chapters are especially dealing with Krishna's personality and the process of approaching Krishna, bhakti or devotional service. What is that saying? To know me is to love me, or to love me is to know me. You can't know me unless you love me, right? So you're in New York City, you know, who are you? What do you want? Why are you coming here? Are you going to let anybody into your private home with your family, with your children, unless you know who they are and what their intention is? No way. Absolutely not. So this material world is like a big kind of place for unauthorized persons who are not fit to enter into Krishna's abode. And somehow or another, at a certain point in recorded history, however long ago it was, they made that conscious decision. Love is based on free will. Are you going to love me with a gun to my head? Oh yeah, I love you. Not possible. That's not love. That's just a calculation to appease a madman and somehow or another bide time and find a loophole and a way to get the hell out of this terrible situation. So Krishna's not going to do that with everyone. He never interferes with anyone's free will. This is the material world. That's why there is injustice. This is why there is so many unwanted, undesirable, unpleasant things in this material world, because people are acting on a false premise of identification, and they're trying to achieve something which is impossible. One cannot be happy unless one is in harmony with the desires of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A easy to understand aspect of this is if we don't live in harmony with the laws of nature, there will be adverse karmic reactions individually and collectively. Pollution, unnecessary killing of other living entities for our so-called bodily upkeep, which for human beings is completely unnecessary to eat meat in any situation, unless there's absolutely nothing to eat in a dire emergency like a post-apocalyptic disaster. But that's, you know, or that there's no food of any other kind. So Krishna, in the middle 6 chapters, of which chapter 7 is the beginning, Krishna is revealing a lot about his personality. So the verse today, Krishna is revealing how he protects himself from unwanted, unauthorized persons or persons with unauthorized, unwanted desires, which are harmful to other living entities. If it's unpleasant and a displeasure to Krishna, rest assured 100% it's going to put others into distress, harm them, even kill them. Krishna says in the Ishopanishad, which is a very important revealed scripture, that one should accept that which is allotted to one as one's quota. When everything is done properly, there's proper distribution of all necessary goods, commodities, and services for everyone. There's no need to work oneself to death just to have a roof over one's head and food and food and shelter. This is just a creation of the demoniac non-devotees, and should not encroach upon other things, knowing well to whom they belong. And if one lives in harmony with this principle, one can live for hundreds and thousands of years. So, Bhagavad Gita literally means the song of God. So when we see a beautiful song has rhyming poetry. So the Sanskrit, which is the most beautiful language, very pleasing to recite, and just by reading the verses, and Prabhupada is in all of his books of the standard ancient scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, I just mentioned Ishopanishad, Srimad Bhagavatam especially. Bhagavad Gita is 700 verses, all 18 chapters, but there are 12 cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which divided into volumes can be between like 2 and even 5 volumes, totaling 18,000 verses. One will come to know something of the beauty of the Sanskrit language, which is Krishna's direct language himself. All right, so we can all say together. Everyone has a book or online? Okay. Naham Prakasha Sarvasya.
Oh, it's 725. Sorry.
Yeah.
Chapter 7, text 25. Sasha, maybe you can help.
In my book, that's page 403, but in the paperback book, it'll be a different page number. Okay. Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yoga Maya Samabrita Mudho Yam Nabijanati Loko Mam Ajam Avyayam Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yoga Maya Samabrita Mudo Yam Nabijanati Loko Mam Ajamavyayam Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yoga Maya Samabrita Mudo Yam Nabijanati Loko Mam ajamavyayam
Loko mam ajam avyayam.
naham prakasha sarvasya
Naham prakasha sarvasya.
yoga maya samabrita
Yoga maya samavrita.
mudoyam nabijanati
Mudo yam navijanati.
loko mama jamavyayam.
Loko mam ajam avyayam. Naham prakasha sarvasya. Yogamaya samavrita. Mudo yam navijanati. Loko mam ajam avyayam.
Naham Prakash Sarvasya
Naham prakasha sarvasya.
Yoga Maya Samavrata
Yogamaya samavrita.
Mudo Yam Napi Jarati
Mudo yam navijanati.
Lokamam Ajam Avyamam
Loko mam ajam avyayam.
Naham prakasha sarvasya
Naham prakasha sarvasya.
yogamaya samavrita
Yogamaya samavrita.
mudoyam navijanati
Mudo yam navijanati.
lokamam ajam apayam.
Loko mam ajam avyayam.
Anyone else?
Naham prakasha sarvasya
Naham
prakasha sarvasya
yogamaya samavrita
Yogamaya samavrita.
mudoyam nabijanati
Mudo yam navijanati.
lokamamajam avyayam.
Loko mam ajam avyayam.
So we will read each Sanskrit word, which some of them are broken into syllables, and give the English translation for each, then read the translation, and then read Srila Prabhupada's purport. Na,
Na.
not. Aham, I. Prakasa, manifest. Sarvasya, to everyone. Yoga Maya,
Yogamaya.
by internal potency.
By internal potency.
Samabrita,
Samavrita.
covered.
Covered.
Mudha,
Mudha.
foolish.
Foolish.
Avyam,
Ayam.
these.
These.
Na,
Na.
not.
Na.
Abhijanati,
Avijanati.
can understand.
Can understand.
Loka,
Loka.
persons.
Persons.
Mam,
Mam.
me.
Me.
Ajam,
Ajam.
unborn.
Unborn.
Avyayam,
Avyayam.
inexhaustible.
Inexhaustible.
I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. So let's repeat. I'll say phrase by phrase. I am never manifest
And never manifest
to the foolish and unintelligent.
to the foolish and unintelligent.
For them, I am covered
For them I am covered
by my internal potency,
by my internal potency.
and therefore they do not know
And therefore they do not know
that I am unborn
that I am unborn
and infallible.
and infallible.
Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. It may be argued that since Krishna was present on this earth and was visible to everyone, then why wasn't he manifest? Then why isn't he manifest to everyone now? But actually, he was not manifest to everyone. When Krishna was present, there were only a few people who could understand him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the assembly of Krus, when Shishupal spoke against Krishna's being elected president of the assembly, Bhishma supported him and proclaimed him to be the supreme God. Similarly, the Pandavas and a few others knew that he was the supreme, but not everyone. He was not revealed to the non-devotees and the common man. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that but for his pure devotees all men consider him to be like themselves. He was manifest only to his devotees as the reservoir of all pleasure. But to others, to unintelligent non-devotees, he was covered by his internal potency. In the prayers of Kunti in the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 1, chapter 8, which is entitled Prayers of Queen Kunti, text number 19, it is said that the Lord is covered by the curtain of Yoga Maya, and thus ordinary people cannot understand him. This Yoga Maya curtain is also confirmed in the Ishopanishad mantra 15, in which the devotee prays, Hiranmayena Patrena Satyasa. Okay, we could do that. Hiranmayena Patrena
Hiranmayena Padrena,
Satyasya Pihitam Mukham
Satyasya Pitam Mukam,
Tattvam Pusan Pavrinu
Tattvam Pusham Apavrinu,
Satya Dharmaya Dristaye.
Satya Dharmaya Drisaye.
Translation, quote, O my Lord, you are the maintainer of the entire universe, and devotional service to you is the highest religious principle. Therefore, I pray that you will also maintain me. Your transcendental form is covered by the Yoga Maya. The Brahmajyoti is the covering of the internal potency. May you kindly remove this glowing effulgence that impedes my seeing your Sat Chid Ananda Vigraha. Sat Chid Ananda means your eternal form of bliss and knowledge. The Supreme Personality of Godhead in his transcendental form of bliss and knowledge is covered by the internal potency of the Brahmajyoti, and the less intelligent impersonalists cannot see the Supreme on this account. Also in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 14, that is the prayers of Lord Brahma, text number 7, there is this prayer by Brahma, quote, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, O Super Soul, O Master of all mystery, who can calculate your potency and pastimes in this world? You are always expanding your internal potency, and therefore no one can understand you. Learned scientists and learned scholars can examine the atomic constitution of the material world or even the planets, but still they are unable to calculate your energy and potency, although you are present before them. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is not only unborn, but also avyaya, inexhaustible. His eternal form is bliss and knowledge, and his energies are all inexhaustible. Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskita Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyas cha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Brinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Atmanivedana Prabhu was in his introductory words describing how this is the original temple of the Krishna consciousness movement. Krishna consciousness movement, some now 59 years come this July, when on this bare floor with no furniture, there might have been one metal folding chair, which was reserved for special guests who couldn't sit on the floor. Everybody was like a teenager or 20 years old at the time. Legally, what is it? scrolled with their pencils the International Society for Krishna Consciousness into existence. We just had the 50th anniversary, 1975, of the opening of the Krishna Balaram Temple in Vrindavan. Vrindavan is the most sacred of all holy places in India because, among so many reasons, it is the place where the original form of the Lord, Krishnastu Bhagavan Svayam, Krishna is the original form of the personality of God, the source of all avatars and incarnations. There's the important chapter 3 in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam first canto entitled Krishna is the source of all incarnations. So has anyone here ever been to India? Maybe some of you are from India originally. There are many tirthas, or sacred places, throughout India, and they're sacred because they're associated with a incarnation of the Lord appearing there. Just like there's one place in Uttar Pradesh, Chitrakoot. This is the place where we just celebrated Ram Navami. Lord Ramachandra and Sita Devi were living during their 14-year exile. There's the holy place of Naimisharanya, where the Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken. There are so many exalted places in South India, the states of Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, where there are many ancient temples, thousands of years old, associated with forms of Lord Vishnu, who is the expansion of Lord Krishna. And we can go on and on and on. But the place where the original personality of God had descended, it's described in the scriptures thousands of times more potent than any other place. So it was mentioned there during that festival that when Prabhupada established the Krishna Balaram temple, there were perhaps only, primary temples. Bombay was under construction, Juhu Beach, Mayapur, place of Lord Chaitanya's appearance. Lord Chaitanya is the avatar for Krishna in this age, and he is the Yuga avatar. The Yuga Dharma, the prescribed method of spirituality and literally salvation for everyone, is the chanting of the holy name of the Lord in this age of Kali Yuga, where our lifespan is less, our ability to acquire wealth and the necessary ingredients to perform elaborate sacrifices, which were done thousands of years ago, practically impossible. The peace of mind and mental strength, which was there in previous ages, the ability to concentrate. So everything has been simplified. Everything that could have been accomplished in previous ages through all elaborate procedures and huge amounts of wealth and influence and prestige has all been distilled and assimilated into the Yuga Dharma of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And Prabhupada coming here and he's speaking, I have come to present the chanting of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And we see that explaining the importance of chanting Hare Krishna and then practically doing it here and then later in public. Has everyone ever been to Tompkins Square Park, beginning here at Avenue A and 7th Street? It's between Avenue A and Avenue B and 7th and 10th Street. There's the large elm tree there, which is over 200 years old, and miraculously has not been affected by Dutch elm disease. This is, actually there's, what is it? Saint Bernadette, she left her body and the body did not decompose. Right? This is, for that was one reason why she was canonized as a saint I believe in the 1920s. So anyway, anything that a pure devotee comes in contact with becomes fortified, spiritualized, and protected from mundane deterioration. We're saying here that Krishna is unborn. Krishna says in another place, for one who is born, death is certain. And in the material world, unless you have achieved perfection. For one who is, and this is very, very good to understand, for one who has died, rebirth is certain. That was one of the arguments given to Arjuna, who was faced, it's a fratricidal war. All the politics and diplomacy over months and years has come to an end. Here we are, face to face. The first shots are going to be fired momentarily. The people on the other side are his cousin brothers, his friends, all his contemporaries, people that he's known. And, by the process of politics, you might find yourself on the wrong side, or a side you don't want to be on. His martial guru, Dronacharya, is on the other side. The grandsire of his entire family, Bhishma Dev, is on the other side. He has to fight the people that he loves. And he became overwhelmed by the situation, and he just said, I can't do this to Krishna. Let them call me a coward, let them ridicule me, I don't care. And then he gave him so many good arguments why, war is never good. Unless, and this is going to be a very surcharged unless, and a lot of people, outside this room who might not be so sympathetic to what we're trying to accomplish here, presenting Krishna consciousness, would have a very big problem with this, unless it's ordered and ordained by God himself. And you misuse sayings like, if God is with us, who can be against us? So each side is saying that. So who's right and who's wrong? Anyone who died in this battle where Krishna was personally present either achieved complete liberation or went to the heavenly planets instantly. And in the case of Bhishma Dev, Dronacharya, they were all older men. They will immediately be given a brand new youthful body. We even sometimes we see a very small child, and they're not like, agitated or, like other small children. They're very pensive, thoughtful. They gaze at you with great penetration. We even have words like they're an old soul. Actually, everyone is an old soul because everyone is eternal. But some more than others, because at the time of leaving this body, what you do take with you, and an infallible, protected bank account that is earning interest and dividends, is everything you've accomplished in your sincere desire to approach the absolute truth and more, understand the absolute truth as a person. What is that saying? In the foxhole there are no atheists. Material life bewilders us into thinking that we don't need a loving relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna is the source of all loving relationships. Akila, Rasamrita, Sindhu, Murti. If our love for Krishna is aroused, what to speak of fully aroused, then we can love everyone else in the most profound and sublime way. Love on the sensual platform is not eternal, lasting love. And we see there's just so much inebriety and cheating and disloyalty and, it ain't enough, then I have to seek someone else or multiple, and But real love is the ability to awaken in others their dormant love of Godhead. Many people who came in contact with Srila Prabhupada, and you see that there's one devotee, one Prabhupada disciple, Siddhanta, he started interviewing Prabhupada's disciples as early as 1992, and I believe the number is over 450 disciples have been interviewed over this 35 or so year period. And one of the main things that you hear again and again, it's not scripted, this one said that I want you to say this, over different times and different places, that before meeting Srila Prabhupada, I could understand that I had never been loved by anyone before in my entire life. And that he had the ability to see the primordial, primeval me, and at the same time see my position in material life and in material identification and all my previous karmic and sinful activities, and how it's like it's caked upon me. But not like, you feel shame and regret, but it was just complete encouragement that you simply do follow these instructions. And Prabhupada is not just, okay, here are the instructions, do it, like a prison guard or something, like with a whip. But the pure devotee, he teaches by example. Everything that Prabhupada asked any of us to do, he had already done it and is doing it, and by a huge amount of times better than we could ever do. Better the best teaching is teaching by example. There's a glorification of Haridas Thakur, who was the exemplar of the chanting of the holy name. Some teach, or their words are very nice, but their example is not very good. We see discrepancy in their private life. Whereas others, their private life is very nice, but they don't teach very nicely. They keep it to themselves. But you will perform both duties in relationship to the holy name, and therefore you are the greatest of devotee. What was the watchword back then when Prabhupada started? Don't trust anyone over 30. Prabhupada started his ministerial work at the age of 70. But all these young people, mad after the beauty of youth, what was it, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, they were willing to follow spiritual and religious principles of behavior and austerity that were like, by comparison to what their contemporary young people were doing. How did Prabhupada inspire them to do that? And Prabhupada would say, I'm an old man, I have no money, why are they after me? Because he's thoroughly realized and immersed in the pure love of Krishna and his pure devotees, Radha and Krishna, in the spiritual world, where real love emanates in its pure form, before it becomes just like, I'm going to buy spring water at the source, before it comes down. You go to India, we're going to sell you some Ganges water, which comes out of Gangotri. I don't want that Ganges water coming out of, the Hooghly River in Calcutta after all the mills put all of their pollution into it. It's splintered into that way in the Bay of Bengal, but their next door neighbor, Dhaka, Bangladesh, the most polluted place on the entire planet. What they've done to the water there and the air is just unspeakable. So, anyway. The average lifespan is 7 years less there than even in neighboring India. So, before love comes into this material world and becomes adulterated by so many ulterior motives and other types of separate agendas, that pure love of Krishna. And Prabhupada said that the purest type of love that you could possibly have in this material world is the love of the mother for the child. So Krishna is the ultimate parent of every living entity, and his desire for everyone to come back to their original. It's not an artificial creation. It's who we really are underneath all of it. And he's patiently waiting, life after life after life, never giving up. Just the parent will never give up on the child, ever. If they're a real parent, never disown the child. There's always hope that they will come back. So pure devotees, they assist the Lord in his mission of incarnation, of coming to this world to help to reclaim the fallen conditioned souls who are actually their long lost family members. Actually, we're all from one family, the Achintya Gotra, the family of the infallible personality of Godhead. So a pure devotee, he relates with everyone on that sublime principle. Not my family is more important than your family. My country is more important than your country. My country for my countrymen. Who are you? Why are you here? Why did you come here? We don't want you here. Everything is the property of the Supreme Father, and everyone is meant to live in harmony together. And ultimately, the variety of ethnicities and bodily expressions and the places where we come from, this is all Krishna's artistry and beauty. And we're missing the point, or we're missing the blueprint or the instruction of how we can all live together in harmony. So along the way, simultaneously, to achieve the ultimate goal of life and complete perfection and fulfillment of all of our desires, desires that we have in the core of our soul that we're aching to have satisfied, but just like someone looking for water in the desert can never quench their thirst. That is being provided by the Dharma of Krishna consciousness, and simultaneously making everything in this world while we live here perfect and sublime. Krishna says in the 3rd chapter, be thou happy by this yajna, in this age, Nam Sankirtan, performance of devotional service, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable. There's 3 categories of what is desirable. Bhukti, Mukti, and Siddhi. Bhukti means comfortable living in this material world. As we were saying, everything. Warm in the winter, cool in the summertime, proper nutritious food, which doesn't have diabolical chemicals which have been calculated to kill you prematurely. What is it? There's one funny thing, like somebody from the, anyway, organic, the organic section. Back when I was growing up, we just called it food. Anyway, it's terrible. We'll read later in the Bhagavad Gita, there's 2, the divine and demoniac. The divine want to live their life and create a situation in such a way that everyone can reach the ultimate goal of life, which is being completely happy. Krishna wants people to live long lives. Prabhupada even would give his blessing. Live as many years as possible. Because the life of a devotee is very, very valuable. They should live as many years as possible, because every day that they're alive, they are blessing this planet and the inhabitants upon it. Then liberation from the the cycle of repeated birth, death, disease, and old age. People, do you believe in reincarnation? I'm asking. Do you believe in getting left back in school? Well, getting left back in school is a reality, but it's undesirable, right? Do you want to repeat the grade again? Here we are. We're all grown adults. Have figured it out to quite a large extent, with a hope to have even more realization as we live more. Do you want to have all that erased and have to start all over again? Go to school again? I already know how to read and write, and et cetera, and to be trained up all over again to do that? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada, he took his birth in this world being called by his father, who was also a Mahabhagavat pure devotee, spiritual master, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I need help. The teachings of Krishna consciousness since Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the 1500s, this is the 1800s. There's been a lot of people have infiltrated and introduced all of these obnoxious doctrines, so much so that respectable, intelligent people, they think that Krishna consciousness is an excuse for like a licentious kind of debauchery. And many other, what they called apasampradayas, deviant groups. It's not within my power to restore your teachings purely. He's praying to God directly. You must send me someone from your personal staff. So there were many divine omens that his fourth son, who they named Bimala Prasad, later to be known as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, was that person. He could read and write at the age of 4. He had memorized the entire Bhagavad Gita by heart, all the Sanskrit, and could speak the translation. In their case, they were in Orissa and Bengal, and give commentary. Like here, I'm sitting and speaking. He could sit here as a 7-year-old and give you class. So if we have to take birth again in this material world, it should be in pursuant of that standard. Prabhupada, he was asked to present this knowledge, not just in the English language. This was his instruction. You should turn yourself into an international teacher and present this to others who are not conversant with the established, in the language of the already established members, who were only people from India. This is in the 1930s. So English was the world language, still is, and he took that instruction so much to heart and expanded it, and now these books are in all the languages of the world. And there are authorized disciples of Srila Prabhupada representing all the countries and all the languages. So at Krishna Balaram Mandir opening, from those few temples, 5 or 6, maybe half a dozen in 1975, a number was given, 538. That's just in India alone. I'm going to go through the purport again and bring out different points that I thought were notable. It may be argued that since Krishna was present on this earth and was visible to everyone, then why wasn't he manifest to everyone now? So Prabhupada is going on to say there's a qualification. One time a reporter, he was challenging Prabhupada, can you see God? And Prabhupada would give different answers at different times. And this time he said, yes. Can you show me God? Yes. Silent. Go ahead, I'm waiting. Show me. Like a magic trick, like you pull a rabbit out of a hat, yes. And Prabhupada said, yes, I can show you. But first you become like my disciples. You've got to shave your head, you've got to follow the 4 rules and regulations. You have to give up meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, intoxication, gambling. When Krishna was personally present, if Krishna was to personally come and walk into this room, how everything would change. Right? So, it's not just now that people are unfortunate and they don't believe in God, and atheism is very strong, even in Krishna's direct presence. Because again, Krishna does not interfere with anyone's free will. That's why it is so nice. What I was saying. Prabhupada, his first attempt to present in English, he made a magazine called Back to Godhead, which means that once having graduated, you graduate high school or college or master's or PhD, that's it. You graduated. You don't have to come back. One time a disciple was saying to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, the tests, to see that you're really Krishna conscious, from the elusive energy, they just keep going on and they never stop. And Prabhupada said, no, that's wrong. At a certain point, you've passed all the tests. And no more tests. You've made it. So that's moksha. Bhukti, mukti, liberation, and beyond that, even more important than liberation, is prema, love of Godhead, which is the perfection of life and the fulfillment of all one's desires. Krishna in the assembly, there was a big ceremony called the Rajasuya sacrifice, and one of the procedures is the greatest personality present should be offered the first worship. So there was an argument against Krishna, who's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, being given that position. He was not revealed to the non-devotees and the common man. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, but for his pure devotees, all men consider him to be like themselves. That we get old, we die, we have material desires. So God must be like that too. Very noble effort of Michelangelo. How many years did he labor on his back painting the Sistine Chapel? I mean, you can look that up and find out. And what is the result? God is a very, very old man. And somehow he's conveying life to Adam, pointing his finger. So we get old, so God must be old. I like the company of beautiful young girls. So Krishna, when he is associating with Srimati Radharani, anyway, it's kind of covered over here. Can we turn the curtain back? Just for the time that we're...
Open it?
Just for the time. Anyway.
Meru.
Yeah. Anyway, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, because it's a little messy.
Radha and Krishna are in the... Therefore, Krishna's dance...
Rob, you saw the Radha.
Oh, there we are. Okay, I didn't crane my neck properly. All right. So therefore, or that Krishna can marry 16,108 princesses, they're all very beautiful, all at the same time, well, then I should be able to try to do that too. They don't understand that this is why the Madhurya Ras, the conjugal relationship of Radha and Krishna, is only to be talked about confidentially with the most qualified persons. It's not to be presented to common people because they'll just equate it with mundane sexology. Everything in relationship to my experience in this material world. They don't understand Krishna's inconceivable potency. Therefore, by following regulative principles and religious lifestyle, Krishna reveals himself. He'll give you the ability to understand. Srila Prabhupada, in his 1974 visit to Australia, was invited to a a monastery of St. Francis, Franciscan monks. It was out in the countryside above Melbourne. And those of you who know the story of St. Francis, he was came from a very aristocratic, wealthy family. And he gave up, and I believe he was the only son. He was the heir to his father's fortune. And he took a vow of poverty. And he had such incredible visions based on his sincerity of Jesus Christ that he actually inherited the stigmata on his hands and feet. And he started an order, and he saw all living entities as part and parcel of God. And we call them like sister this, brother that. And Srila Prabhupada was presenting Krishna consciousness there, and all of these persons there, they were greatly impressed. And then one asked Srila Prabhupada to say, what is his opinion of St. Francis? And when it was explained to Srila Prabhupada what St. Francis did, what his life was, what his way of looking at all living entities, Prabhupada became emotional and said, this is first-class God consciousness. Not that we say that we love God or we try to be kind to the human beings and we cut the throat of the animal. And because these, all the people there, they were like, they're following a very strict religious lifestyle. They were they were deeply impressed by Srila Prabhupada. And after, there's even a video of this, there was video made, you can find it on YouTube, that they had a big kirtan chanting Hare Krishna, and these men were dancing and chanting with no sectarian, oh, we can't chant Hare Krishna, that's your religion, that's not my religion, with such enthusiasm, and many of them were crying tears in ecstasy. Krishna, except for the pure devotees, all men consider him, Krishna, to be like themselves. He was manifest only to his devotees as the reservoir of all pleasure. Can you be the reservoir of all pleasure for all living beings in your material body? It's ridiculous. Sometimes, like they call them LSD saints. They're taking LSD and say, I am God! And they would shout and, and Prabhupada said, you are God? Do you know what everyone is thinking? Do you know what the thinking of every living entity? Do you know everyone's past, present, and future? Are you floating all the planets by your potency in orbit? This is ridiculous. Definition of what is this? Who is the supreme being? Who is God? So Prabhupada mentions the prayers of Queen Kunti. It is said that the Lord is covered by the curtain of Yogamaya, and thus ordinary people cannot understand him. So here there's a curtain. It's an invisible curtain. Maya janavikanchanam ajad hoksajam avyayam nalakshite mudadrisya nato natyadaro yata. Being beyond the range of limited sense perception, you are the eternally irreproachable factor covered by the curtain of deluding energy. You are invisible to the foolish observer, exactly as an actor dressed as a player in his theatrical role is not recognized. So Prabhupada says here in this section of Bhagavatam, referring to what we're reading now, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna affirms that less intelligent persons mistake him to be an ordinary man like us and thus deride him. The same is confirmed herein by Queen Kunti. The less intelligent persons are those who rebel against the authority of the Lord. So those who don't have a problem with the supremacy and the absolute authority of the personality of Godhead, they will have no problem with Krishna's position. Whereas those who have a problem with it because they themselves want to usurp the position of the Lord to a greater or lesser extent, somehow or another, for themselves, they will have a problem. Right? If there's someone stronger, someone richer, more beautiful than you are, then they're a threat to your attempt to becoming the most beautiful, the most rich, the most influential. Me first, not you. Dog eat dog. Right? Survival of the fittest. Vaikuntha. That type of thinking and endeavor is most conspicuous by its absence in the spiritual world. Everyone is in sublime acceptance and cooperation, and by that, the full fruition of their perfect self and eternality, knowledge, and bliss is manifest, and no one is envious of anyone else. In fact, the more we rejoice and revel in others, and perfection is not you reach a plateau, but it's ever increasing and expanding. The more that you take pleasure in that and facilitate that, the better you are and the better you become. And everyone is on that platform in the spiritual world, completely opposite of the envy of this material world. The Asuras cannot recognize the Lord's authority. When the Lord himself appears amongst us as Rama in the Shringa Varaha, or in his original form as Krishna, he performs many wonderful acts which are humanly impossible. As we shall find in the 10th canto, and here many things are listed, lifting Govardhan Hill. Some of the superhuman activities of the Lord are described in the Vedic literatures. He has delivered wonderful instructions in the shape of the Bhagavad Gita. He has shown marvelous capacities as a hero, a householder, family man, and a teacher, and as a renouncer. He's accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by all authoritative personalities. He himself has declared as much in many places in the authentic literatures, and yet there is a class of men with demonic mentality who are always reluctant to accept the Lord as the supreme, absolute truth. This is partially due to their poor fund of knowledge and partially due to their stubborn obstinacy, which results from various misdeeds in the past and present. What is that saying? You sow, as you sow, so shall you reap. It's like a snowball coming down the mountain, good or bad. The more you perform sinful activities, the more you become, let's say, forced to keep doing it. Whereas the opposite, the more you regulate your life to be strictly engaged in pious activities, and pious activities have a gradation ultimately to perfected, pure pious activities, the more everything is revealed to you. So the more that people are engaged in materialism, the more their ability to understand real truth becomes less and less and less and less, practically to the point where any chance in this life becomes impossible. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita in the 3rd chapter that one should not waste one's valuable time in trying to enlighten people who have gone to this extent. But again, that point, Krishna never disowns anyone, no matter how covered over they become, no matter how much implicated they are in crimes against humanity. So the devotees of the Lord, even hearing that instruction, don't approach them, don't waste your time, don't put yourself at risk. The greatest known example is Jesus Christ, Lord Jesus Christ. He put himself at risk, and look at the result. Begging the Lord to forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. And what is the result of that? His teaching has become arguably one of the most important revelations of how to achieve God's mercy on the entire planet. And, so much whoever interpreted it this way and that way, and they used it for political purposes and inquisitions over thousands. That's another story. But if one actually wants to really approach the teachings of such a pure devotee and approach God directly, that facility is there. And the only criteria is one's sincerity. That's the only purchase price required. And any other blocking, no one individually or collectively as an organization can impede anyone whose sincerity and desire is in the right place. Krishna will help one overcome all obstacles. Another difficulty is that those who depend more or less on their imperfect senses cannot realize him as the supreme. Show me. Missouri, the show me state, right? Actually, Missouri, misery. If that's the stance that you're going to take, I have to be shown with my imperfect senses, then you will remain in misery. You have to elevate your senses. You have to have transcendently awakened senses. The pure devotee can perceive and understand things that those who are not practicing cannot perceive. It's like if you come bronco busting into the higher science class in the university, show me. Where's your certification that you took preliminary education? Isn't it? It's a mundane example, but it's good common sense. That's why we respect someone, so-called an older person, senior citizen. Okay, it's one thing that New York City has done for me. They gave me a senior citizen subway card, Haribol. And then they repair the elevators, for take 6 or 9 months at a time, sitting there doing nothing. Your tax dollars at work while somebody's lining their pockets, while all the elevators. Anyway, that's an unpaid announcement for an unpaid political announcement there. But the real respective seniority is that they've used their time to try to please the personality of Godhead, and by that have been granted confidential entrance into the atmosphere of that sublime personality of God, and has been authorized to teach and speak on that sublime personality of Godhead's behalf for the benefit of everyone. That's why someone like Srila Prabhupada is so universally respectable for everyone. Actually, people who didn't even... Prabhupada was invited to San Francisco in January 1967, and some of his New York disciples had gone out there, and those of you who know the history, that was the day before Prabhupada arrived. Allen Ginsberg and others led a human be-in in Golden Gate Park, with the Grateful Dead being the headlining band, and a gathering of the tribes for a joyful powwow and peace dance. We're going to have the Summer of Love, in San Francisco. Anyway, so they made a mantra rock dance with Allen Ginsberg, Grateful Dead, Janis Joplin, some other bands at Chet Helms Family Dog Auditorium, which was the ballroom on the seashore, not the Fillmore West, which was in the town. Anyway, and no one told anyone how to receive Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada walked in, and they made like a Moses parting the Red Sea. And who did they ask to be the security at this event? They behaved themselves at this one, unlike they did at the Rolling Stones Altamont in December 1969. The Hells Angels! And these are really tough cookies. They used to have their New York City headquarters, I think it's gone now, on 3rd Street between 2nd Avenue and Bowery. And actually, our Adi, who does the Food for Life at Tompkins Square Park, I don't know if he still lives there, but anyway, they were the next door neighbors. They had a bench there. Don't sit on this bench. It's the Hells Angels property. And if you did, oh boy. Anyway, so the Hells Angels with their billy clubs and their chains and just they all bowed down, touching their heads to the floor. Prabhupada commanded such authority. And not like, oh, I got to bow down, but wow, this is so blissful, bowing down to such a personality. You have the right, you hold the mace, save me a fallen, your divine grace. Such persons like the modern scientists, they want to know everything by their experimental knowledge, but it is not possible to know the Supreme Person by imperfect experimental knowledge. He is described herein as a hoaxager beyond the range of experimental knowledge. All our senses are imperfect. We claim to observe everything and anything, but we must admit that we can observe things under certain material conditions only, which are also beyond our control. Queen Kunti accepts this deficiency of the conditioned soul. Yeah. All right. So we've gone over time, which, if I don't watch it, is a unfortunate penchant of myself. I apologize. Thank you very much. Anyone have a question or a comment?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I have 3 questions, but I'll limit myself to just one. I'm sorry.
Okay, speak a little louder so my...
Sorry, I have 3
Okay, sorry.
questions, but I'll limit myself to just
Okay.
The purport says, hold on. That Krishna, he was not revealed to non-devotees and the common man,
Yeah.
right? So, but in the Mahabharata, there was there was an incident I don't know if it was in his palace or in Yudhishthira's palace, where Shishupala confronted him and insulted him.
Shishupal. Yeah.
And wasn't Shishupal a common person? What is meant by a common person? Like a laborer or what is meant by that?
In this regard, a common person means like a lay person who is
Like a
we were hearing earlier there's 4 types of persons who don't approach Krishna. One is the just like he's laboring like a beast of burden. It's like, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That's really their only concern.
Okay.
That's common person.
Okay. 'Cause-
But then again, it could also, in a different context, be used charitable. The people in general, lokanam, the life and soul of all the people.
Mhm.
So people who are not so invested in demoniac principles, they're just simple, ordinary, regular people. If Krishna consciousness or a godly thing is presented to them in a beautiful way, they will be attracted. Prabhupada toured Latin America. He went to Mexico. He went to Venezuela before the political situation is what it is. And as my memory served, those 2 main places. And he was very much impressed with how religious everyone is, mostly Christianity.
Yeah.
And they treated Srila Prabhupada with such respect. They wanted his blessings. They recognized him as a saintly person. Almost like, people go to see the Pope in the Vatican City. And he said that they're very simple people, and by that, actually, to be a simple, common person in a lot of ways is better, because you're not like become overly intelligent or contaminated by atheistic doctrines and philosophies.
Or just plain arrogance, thinking that you're better than anyone who has.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, to be very wealthy and to be very, actually, Queen Kunti, to be born, have a very rich aristocracy, so-called family lineage. You know, we see some of the rich families have done some of the worst things to this planet for centuries, for example. To have bodily beauty. What is that song from the 70s? You're so vain, right? You know, money, be very intelligent. I'm so smart. Then you become puffed up. Why do I need God? You know, people who worship God, they're misled. They're just, who is it? I think that the Stalin or Lenin, God is the opiate of the masses.
That was Karl Marx who said
Karl
that.
Marx, very nice.
Religion is the opium or the opiate of the masses. That was Karl Marx,
Right.
the economist.
And Prabhupada would say that the communists, they would go into, poor places where there was famine and drought in India, and they would come with like truckloads of food, loaves of bread, say, pray to your God for food, and you're starving. Now pray to your communist brother, Oh, communist brother, please give me food, I say, who is God, or that you become or like, the Europeans who went into India, you read about like what they did in Goa, the Spanish and the Portuguese, absolutely horrible. And Christian missionaries, they said, if you don't convert to Christianity, then you will starve to death. Or that we will dig a well and you can have sweet water, but you have to convert to Christianity. And the Muslims did the same thing also.
Yeah, and the same thing was done in Cuba
Right,
after Castro. The exact same thing was done in Cuba.
right.
And that's what many.
Or like the British, they came in to India and they went to like the Jagannath temple, which is one of the most authorized places in India. There's even Christ after the resurrection, there's evidence that he left and went to India and he took part in that festival at Jagannath. And actually there's a place in Kashmir in the Himalayan mountains, which is the final resting place of Christ, and it's been for centuries and thousands of years understood like that. But anyway, the British came in and they said that they're like aboriginal, they're like primitive. We have to stamp out this religion and this and that, and they're worshiping gods and this and that. And you would have like people like Rudyard Kipling, and he would write, like these like white supremacy poetries, like the white man's burden to bathe the heathen brown man in the blood of the Lamb of Christ. Such misinterpretation. So and they say that their thing is what is religious. This is our God.
But in terms back going to the incident with Shishupala.
Shishupal. Well, there's a greater story to that Shishupal and in that incarnation, Dantavakra, they were Jai and Vijay. They were the gatekeepers at Vaikuntha, and they mistakenly, erroneously, and or offensively checked the four Kumaras, who were great saintly persons. They're direct sons of Lord Brahma, but they purposely kept themselves as young boys. So, 5-year-old boys are not experiencing sex attraction. When you later grow into puberty, and sex attraction is an impediment to brahmachari and renunciation. So they had the potency to keep themselves like that, although they're the oldest personalities in creation. And they have a carte blanche to enter the spiritual world whenever they wanted. So this Jai and Vijay checked them. Who are you? What are you doing here? They said, what is this? You're not fit to be Right, like if you have a, what do you call here, the bouncer? No, you go to, no, you Upper West Side, doorman, right?
Yeah,
You know, they have to know, oh, this person lives in the building, he owns the penthouse apartment, you know, yes, sir, welcome, and a whole flourish of activity. Whereas if somebody from the street walks in, who are you, what are you, you can't be here, you know, get out, you know. So they say, you don't belong, you don't belong in the spiritual world, so we curse you to take 3 births of demon. No, they were given a choice. You could take 7 births in the material world favorable to the Lord, or you could take 3 births as demons. So they chose 3 births because we don't want to be cursed to come to the material world, favorable or unfavorable. So those 3 demons were Hiranyakashipu, who caused Lord Nrsimhadev to appear, Ravana, who stole Sita Devi and caused Lord Ramachandra to have his Leela with Hanuman, etc. And Shishupal was the last one. And he had the benediction that he can insult Krishna 100 times. And the 100th time, that's it. And then Krishna invoked the Sudarshan chakra and chopped his head right off. And then he's fit to go back home, back to Godhead. So there's always something deeper going on.
Right, so in a way, he was like a common man in the sense that,
Representative of the common man, but there's something much deeper going on. So nothing is ever completely black and white. There's different nuances. Okay?
thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, you said after death, one is sure to take birth again.
What?
After death, one is to take birth,
For one who has died, rebirth is certain.
certain, yeah.
Yeah.
But what about the pure devotee
Yep.
and the person who is dying with the name of Krishna?
Yeah, so that is understood, that one who has, let's say, passed the test. Death is understood to be the final exam. Life is like going to class all throughout the year. You study, you do homework, and like that. You know, we can have. It's not like I'll only know if I made it at the time of death, and like, okay, I leave this body, and oh, well, I made it. There's different guideposts and milestones along the way that you can understand that you're doing the right and you're progressing. Okay?
What about
Huh?
what about the pure devotee who is his entire life is chanting Hare Krishna?
Pure devotee, there's no question of favorable or unfavorable. Wherever they leave their body, however the situation is arranged, they completely leave it to Krishna, and their destination is guaranteed. They're not in the slightest anxiety. That is a very coveted position to achieve, and ultimately that is the best thing to achieve in this life, such a position. Anything else? Okay. Kirtan. We went a long time. Or should we just go to Prasadam because we...
Kirtan.
Kirtan.
So we'll do kirtan now,
Yeah.
everyone, and then we'll have prasadam dinner after that, with dessert too.